All right, we at 21st verse. Touch not, taste not, handle not, which are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrine of men. It's been many statements. Jesus said to them scribes and Pharisees how they paid tithe, rue, and mint, but they passed over mercy. And, you know, they were doing the works of the law, but they still wasn't honoring God, or they still wasn't loving their brother. See, because once you get the love of God, you don't have to worry about working any of the works of the law. You're not going to be committing adultery. You're not going to covet after anybody things. You're not going to murder. You're not going to hate. You're not going to fight, fuss when you get the love of God. Okay, and when you get love, see, love don't work ill. It don't seek its own. It's not vainly puffed up. You know the 13th chapter of I think it's Romans or Corinthians, but the 13th chapter shows you the things that love do. It vaunteth not itself. It bears all things. See, that's what love does. See, when you get love, it says love is the end of the commandments. Once you get that, and you also have faith, then see, because faith, hope, and charity, those things right there. That's what this is all about. If you can grab hold to those things and have the faith and love like God is. See, God is love. So how can a man not love his brother whom he sees, and God he hasn't seen, but he's going to say he loves God? Well, that man is deceived. That's what the Bible says. It says if you can't love your brother whom you see, then you are still in darkness. Understand that. But it says, which all are to perish with the using, after the commandments and doctrine of man. Talking about man, telling you don't do this and don't do that. Which things have indeed a show of wisdom in well worship. Meaning, man, it seems like, man, if you fast 30 days, you did something. I mean, it's really courageous to do. But if you can't die to sin, and you still sin, or you can't love, and you still doing things against other people, or you still hating in your heart, then that fast is really not working for you, okay? That's all it's saying. It's saying the commandments and doctrine of men, you don't want to get caught up in that. Even it's a place, I forget where it is, but I know it's written in the Bible, where he says they teach doctrine, the commandments of men, instead of the doctrine of God. Instead of doing what God say, they had their own doctrine going on. Okay? And he said, wisdom and will worship, and humility, and neglecting of the body, not in any honor to the satisfying of the flesh. Meaning, it means it looks real good. You know, like they got Buddhists. Man, that looks real good. They fast, they take vows of silence, they stay secluded, they pray, they meditate, they do a lot of things like that. But then if they ain't got the head, talking about Jesus Christ and this kingdom that we're talking about, the kingdom of the Son of God, then they're not in this. But they're doing a whole bunch of neglecting of the body. Looks like, man, they're real good. They're good people. You know, they're doing what's right. But then they don't have the head, which is Jesus Christ. And that's just only an example. I'm not talking against them. I'm just saying that's just an example I'm using as far as neglecting the body. You know, people that talk about probably sitting in church with somebody talk about they went on a 40-day fast. Well, if they fasted, that's good, especially if they broke the yokes. But if they still ain't over sin and ain't loving like they supposed to, then that fast really did not help them. That's what I'm talking about. The doctrine and commandments of men. Okay. Now, it says, if ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above, and not on things on the earth. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Your life is hid. Your life that you're expecting to live, you're living it for God. You're not living it for the material things or none of that. You not worried about things like that. See, if you are risen with Christ, you're supposed to seek those things which are above. All you were really concerned about is your crown from heaven and you being rewarded for living for God. That's what you want a reward for. You don't just necessarily need the new home, new cars, new clothes. You don't necessarily need that. Understand it. You don't really need those things, especially to work fate. See, because what does a man hope for if you get all that things? It said, what if a man to gain this whole world and lose his soul? Well, your soul is more important than anything in this world. Understand that. Okay. It says, when Christ, who is our lives, he said, who is our lives, shall appear, then shall we appear with him in glory. Now, a lot of people, this is talking to who? The Colossian church. And they were not writing to the Colossians for us. See, a lot of people pick up this book and they say, well, see right there, it say, when Christ, who is our life, shall appear, then shall we appear with him in glory. True. That is a true statement. I'm not saying that's not in there and that's not what it's talking about. But who is it talking to? Now, if I read this and I think it's talking to me, then I'm deceived. Why am I deceived though? Because it's just like a piece of mail. Let me see. I wish I had a letter or something right. Yeah, let me see. It's like this. You see this right here? This is the envelope and it was sent to me at this address. That's my mail. If it's a letter in here, it's my letter. If it's speaking of the things of God, and I can read it and understand what it's saying, it's still to me. Now say I give this to one of my fellow Christians. It was wrote to me, it's concerning me, but I give it to them. And then they hold on to it for 20 years. And their daughter pick it up. And she reads it and be like, woo, this is a whole bunch of important stuff in this letter. But it had happened 10 years ago. What was written in this letter. But she picks it up and reads it. And she's like, I can see that. Oh, it looks like that's going to happen right now. But it's not, because it was not wrote to her. It was wrote to me. And her father, her mother took it. And they read it. But they held on to it for 20 years. And then when she found it, she was like, wow. She read it and thought it was talking to her. But it was not. It was talking to me. And that's what I'm saying. That's what happens when people read the letters, especially the letters in the Bible. Now, the prophecies and everything, we know those were talking to Israel. But the letters in the Bible, people picks up and read them like it was addressed to them, like it had their name on it. But it was wrote to the people it was wrote to. Like Romans was wrote to the Romans. Corinthians was wrote to the Corinthians. Colossians was wrote to the people that was at Colossae. You got to understand that. Thessalonians was wrote to the people that were in Thessalonians. Now I'm going to stop right there. We just came into the 3rd chapter. It says, seek those things that are above. Your life is supposed to be hid with Christ in God. And we'll continue on the next segment.